Hi, thank you for watching Pro Football Today. I'm your host, Zach Simmons. Today we're going to be taking a look at Week 2 of the 2019 regular season here in the NFL. So this is a week, it's a very strange week because we think we know what's going to be going on. We think there's a lot of projections, a lot of guesses out there of what this season is going to look like. But in reality, we don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of things that can change. Don't forget that back in 2017, the Chargers went 0-2. They ended up having a long winning streak. And then last year, the Miami Dolphins started 3-0. And we all know that didn't work out so well. So anything can happen right now. Just because your team is 2-0 does not mean they're a playoff team. And just because your team is 0-2 does not mean they're going to have a terrible season. Anything can happen. That's the great thing about football. Anything can happen. Speaking of that, two incredible teams, one that made playoffs last year. The other team that almost made playoffs came one game away. Their futures this year, their result this year might not be that great. Pittsburgh Steelers lost Ben Roethlisberger to a season-ending injury, to an elbow injury. Mason Rudolph will now be the starter for the rest of this season. As long as he can stay healthy and as long as he can play well, I don't see them putting anyone in other than for any other reason than injury. And then the New Orleans Saints lost Drew Brees for approximately 6 weeks due to a thumb injury in Sunday afternoon's game against the Rams. So what does this mean for these two teams? What does this mean? A lot of people had Pittsburgh win the division, myself included. And a lot of people had the Saints potentially making the Super Bowl. So what's going to happen now? Well, let's take a look at the Steelers first. They have Mason Rudolph. Rudolph played an exceptional game for that being his NFL debut. A really good game. Don't take a look at the interception. That was more on Moncrief than it was on him. Yes, maybe he shouldn't have thrown that ball, but Moncrief should have caught it, or at least got a hand on it. You can't really blame Rudolph too much for that. There was more Moncrief. But he looked good. It makes me wonder, week 1 against New England, Roethlisberger didn't look, it wasn't so much on Roethlisberger as it was guys getting open. But when Rudolph came in, he just made plays happen. He knew exactly what to look. So it makes me wonder, was week 1 on Big Ben? Not on the receivers like we all had thought. Maybe he just wasn't making the right reads. Maybe he was just looking at Juju a little too much. And negating everyone else that's out there. So Mason Rudolph comes in, throws 2 touchdown passes to Vance McDonald. McDonald, I believe, if I'm correct, only had about a target or 2 by Big Ben in week 1. So you might be seeing a little bit more Vance McDonald this year under Mason Rudolph. But I liked what I saw from him. He could potentially be a Rookie of the Year candidate. I thought he looked good. Battling out David Montgomery and Kyler Murray for that spot for Rookie of the Year, but I think he could definitely be a good contender for that. Now taking a look at New Orleans. Yes, Teddy Bridgewater did not play that great of a game. The Rams easily won that game 27-9. What does that mean for Bridgewater? Now pump the brakes a little bit. Pump the brakes a little bit on Bridgewater. You have to remember, they did not have a game plan with Bridgewater. Bridgewater and Brees are 2 completely different styles of quarterback. Brees is more stay in the pocket, dink and dunk. Bridgewater likes to move a little bit more. He's not necessarily a mobile quarterback, but he can take off if he wants to. So the styles are completely different. The game plan did not change when Bridgewater came in. He was playing Brees' game plan. That's partially why he didn't play that great. So now that he has his own game plan in, now that Taysom Hill is going to be doing some of his magic, I think it's going to be a lot better than what we saw this last week. I don't think it's going to be necessarily a six wins there, but he should be able to do pretty well. I don't think as good as Mason Rudolph, but I think he still should be fine. So the Saints, you still should be able to make playoffs unless the Atlanta Falcons can kick it on. They played great this last week against the Eagles, given the Eagles had some injuries there at receiver. But Atlanta, this is still a good team. So if I was a Saints fan, I might be a little worried about Atlanta, but I'm pretty sure the Saints will be able to make playoffs. At least, the very least, wild card, but I think they still have a pretty good chance at division. So, then we also have the Jets. Jets, we all know Sam Darnold's out with mono. But now we take a look at Trevor Siemian. Hurt his foot, out for the season. They had to deal with Luke Falk for about one game, maybe just one game. They're saying that Darnold could come back as early as week 5. They have a bye week, week 4, so we might be just seeing one game with Luke Falk. We didn't see a whole lot of Falk. I mean, he was in there for the majority of the game, but they didn't really trust him with the ball. I'm not sure that's because of the game plan or anything like that, or they just don't want him to pass the ball too much. So expect Le'Veon Bell to get a good amount of carries this week, but he can't do it all, so expect a lot from Ty Montgomery. Ty Montgomery, who I thought was going to have a little bit more of a silent season, but showed up quite a bit this last week, and I think a lot of that had to do with the injuries. Now you're going to see a lot more Ty Montgomery, especially this week, than you did last week, with Luke Falk playing quarterback, and potentially in week 5 if Darnold is not back yet. So now taking a look at some 2-0 teams, two teams that I think their record is a lot better than where their team is at. The first one, the Buffalo Bills. Now, I like the Bills. I put the Bills down number 2 in the AFC East. But this team, they barely beat the Jets. They turned it on. Josh Allen had a really good game, 17-point comeback against the Jets. But this last week, they win against the Giants. Of course, they won against the Giants. So I think it's more that they're playing easier teams than anything else. But I love to see what Josh Allen can do against a good team. And I think he'll be challenged a little bit this week in Cincinnati. But I expect them to win that game as well. Buffalo, they're decent. They're not, I wouldn't say they're necessarily 2-0 caliber, but they're a good team, good solid team. I expect them more to go around the 8-8 range this season, and just from where I'm seeing Josh Allen is at. It wasn't exactly, he's not at what I was hoping he would be at by now, but he can definitely turn it on. Definitely has time. Then taking a look at the Seahawks. Now, I like the Seahawks. I put them as a wild card contestant. But the fact they almost lost in Cincinnati. I thought Cincinnati might be a huge contender this year. After that loss to San Francisco, I'm not sure. San Francisco, we'll talk about them here just in a second. But Seattle, they almost lost to Cincinnati. And they almost lost to Pittsburgh, almost lost to Mason Rudolph. Now, I know I just started praising him, but this was his first career game. There's no way that that game should be that close for Seattle. So it makes me wonder, they're still in that rebuild mode. They weren't supposed to make playoffs last year. They did. I don't see this team being a Super Bowl contender, but I wonder, are they actually worth being 2-0? Looking at the two teams they faced, how narrowly they came. Is this team worthy of being the wild card? I don't know, but it's still early. They can easily kick it on. Don't forget, last year Seattle had kind of a rough start, and they ended up very, very well in the wild card. Now take a look at the Niners. This is the team that everyone had them being their surprise team. I even said in the NFC West video to watch out for San Fran. They can easily be the surprise team, but I did still have them down number 3 in this division in the NFC West. Now, San Francisco, this last week against Cincinnati, I said Cincinnati might be a breakout candidate this year. Watch out for Cincinnati. I may be wrong. San Fran just demolished them, 41-17. Niners had one heck of a game. But I still go back to week 1. Garoppolo did not play well. They did not deserve to win that game against Tampa. It's just that Jameis played awful. Both teams just played awful. I wouldn't necessarily call that a win by San Fran. I would be happy about that win. Now, I know that, even the ugly wins, they still count, but I would not be happy about that win. And then they go against Cincinnati, and they demolish Cincinnati. Garoppolo had a pretty good game against them, too. Over 300 yards passing. But I still wonder about Garoppolo. He's mildly inconsistent. I know we're taking a look at 2 weeks, but also if we take a look at preseason, his first game, week 3, not good at all. Didn't get one single yard, threw an interception. 5 of his first throws were touched by defenders. And then the next week he played decent. He played well. Week 1 looked awful. Threw some passes he definitely shouldn't have thrown to. And this last week looked decent. So I'm seeing a little bit of some Fitzpatrick in him. That I don't think he's very consistent. I wouldn't necessarily be very happy about him. But he can definitely get the job done. It'd be interesting to see exactly where San Fran goes. What team will they end up being this year? Will they be a good team, or will they be the Miami Dolphins of last season, who went 3-0 and didn't make playoffs? So a lot of things going on here in the NFL. Week 2 is always a special time to try and figure out exactly what's going on. So now we can take a look at Week 3. Week 3 is going to be very interesting. 3 things that we really want to take a look at in Week 3 is how Case Keenum plays. Should he be benched? And Daniel Jones is now starting there with the Giants. And now Josh Rosen will be starting with Miami. So the big question is, when is it time for Dwayne Haskins then? Even Mason Rudolph is starting, given that it wasn't necessarily the team's choice to start him, but Rudolph is starting now. When is it time for Haskins? Now, before you say the Redskins are 2-0, they need to change a quarterback, remember just how poorly Haskins played. He had a couple good plays. For the most part, he didn't play that well. Keenum has played a great season so far. Almost beat Philly. Almost beat Dallas as well. This is a really good quarterback. Case Keenum, I don't think he deserves his. I don't think he deserves for Haskins to take his job just yet. So yes, Jones is in. Don't think here's the right time for him as well. Manning, gotta give him some more time. I understand you really want Jones in. You're getting pressure to put Jones in from the fan base. Fan base wants to move on from Manning and wants to see Daniel Jones. But man, it's just 2 weeks. Do you really want to do that to Eli? It's just 2 weeks. Eli can play a couple more weeks. It was a very strange decision, I thought, to play Jones this early. I didn't even think Jones was going to play this season. But we'll see how he does. I like Jones in preseason. I really, really liked and thought he's poised in the pocket, knew exactly what was going on, knew exactly who to throw to. There's a couple plays that I think his awareness was a little down, especially against Chicago. But for the most part, I wouldn't be too worried about Jones, but I still wondering if it's just a tad bit too early they jumped the gun. Now with Fitzpatrick, it's kind of the same thing. The entire team is just bad. This is the worst team that I've seen since, I believe it was the 08 Detroit Lions went 0-16, 07, 08. I can't remember the exact year. But this is a bad team. I would take the 2017 Browns over the 2019 Miami Dolphins right now. And they lost Fitzpatrick to go along with it. Yes, they had three first-round picks. Hopefully they can turn that into a player, not just a rookie. But you can't blame Fitzpatrick completely. They haven't done a good job getting receivers. I mean, they really have done a poor job. Devontae Parker is probably the best receiver they picked up. They got Kenny Stills iffy. They just traded him away. You had Albert Wilson, not necessarily a standout receiver, someone who could possibly break out, but not a great receiver. Let go of Danny Amendola last year after a one-year experiment with him. You have Preston Williams, who might be the most impressive-looking receiver in that group. They don't have a tight end. They don't have an offensive line, and Kenyon Drake is an average running back. Man, you can't blame Fitzpatrick too much. In fact, one of those interceptions, it wasn't even his fault. It was Balaj. He's looked terrible. He's honestly looked terrible. I know a lot of people have been saying he can possibly be a starter there in Miami. No, there's no chance. He looked awful this last week. Dunked from a ball. Instead of putting his hands up trying to catch it, he dunked. And then one pass Fitzpatrick tried to throw to him. Wide open. Good pass for Fitzpatrick. Hit his hands. There's Jimmy Collins. Collins takes it for a touchdown. You can't really blame Fitzpatrick. Definitely saying that Rosen's gone out there and done pretty much the exact same thing. So I think they're jumping the gun a little bit. Give Fitzy some more time. It's not his fault. This is the one time I can actually say it's not necessarily Fitzpatrick's fault. This isn't. I don't think we're necessarily seeing Fitz tragic. As we're seeing just a Fitz magicless Ryan Fitzpatrick. But very interesting decision to put Rosen in there. We'll see how that goes. Still not sure if that's the right move just yet. Rosen really hasn't shown anything to me that he can start right now. Down the road, sure. So hopefully he's shown some stuff this week and Miami can get going. But this year, it's a year lost for Miami. There's no turning back. There's no playoff hopes for them. I had them number 4 in that division, and that might be last place in the league. This is one bad team. So I'm sorry, Miami fans, but you have 3 first-round picks to work from next year. So maybe you guys can get something going. We'll definitely see. But that's what we have for week 2. Week 3 is going to be very interesting. The next few weeks we'll be able to see a little bit more about how the season is going to look, but it's hard to tell from week 2. So don't hang your head low if your team is 0-2 or 1-1, or if you're a fan of the Cardinals, 1-1, and pump the brakes a little bit if your team's 2-0, because there's been a lot of teams that have been that good and have had a terrible rest of the season. So I hope you have a really good rest of your day. Thank you for watching.